Evening, guys. It's Matt, and I'm here with a bit of a MGTOW conversation. I know some of you guys don't like MGTOW, but at the same time, I do think it's a growing phenomenon, and as such, is worth covering. Um, Today's is a little bit different. In the sense that somebody was asking me about MGTOW, and they were talking about the fact covering. They're talking about the fact that they're. Could you speak to my sons? Could you deal with the fact that they're interested in women and blah blah blah? I'm like, I'm very pro MGTOW, and they'll go, what do you mean? What is a MGTOW? I'm like, it's meant to go their own way, and I was explaining that it's the recognition that there is no fundamental reason for a lot of the ties that constantly go in on relationships because they do not benefit men. And then it was started, oh, what you anti-women? It's like, well, no, women can do their own thing. But this is a case of the fact that the financial aspect of this has very little bearing unless you're stupid enough to do things in your early years. And this is how we got into this conversation, because she was talking about her kids, and I was like saying, look, don't be funny. When you had your kids, you were like 18 years old, and you had the first one at 18, first at 19, second at 19, and then your boyfriend left you at 20. Why did you leave? And she was like, well, it's none of your business. I says, yeah, but how do you think your kids see that? I was like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I says, this is why MGTOW is becoming important, because I know myself from being a father that in the UK, you're not allowed to be a father. You're allowed to be a financial supporter. You're allowed to have this weight of supporting financially other people, but you're not allowed to be part of their life unless it's selective by your ex-partner. As such, the fathers have zero introduction, part of, or ability to be part of that family unit, beyond the fact that the mother going, your father never supported me. Your father was never here. Your father, hang on a minute, why was he never there? Well, I didn't want him here. I financially drained him to the point he wouldn't come anyway. At the same point, he had no legalities allowing him access beyond what I controlled anyway. So in essence, you'd force the father figure out of the relationship, and you're now wondering why your sons should be advised to go MGTOW. Well, MGTOW is very basic in the sense of recognizing that the disparity between male and females are becoming much, much bigger. Financially, men are maybe more capable of making a larger income, but often are dealt a blow by actually partnering with a woman, in the sense of having kids or getting into family life, to find that the woman at some point decides she isn't happy with it, then takes more than her fair share as you exit the relationship. Myself, I've experienced some of this, and I have to admit, I'm one of those guys that go complete exit in the sense of leave the country. But not everybody has that ability to simply utilize their skills anywhere on the globe. But from this point of view, she was complaining about the fact that her kids were having liaisons with women but had no value of the women. There has been no value developed. And I have to admit, if you don't develop that evaluation of somebody, why would you automatically assume that they deserve it? And I was talking to my wife earlier about this, because we have friends that are in relationships with Russian women that assume they are princesses and should be treated as such. Yet every one of the people we're talking to brings it up that their partner is a bloody nightmare. Whether it's engaging and interfering in family issues or simply an insecurity complex, it's all about the one thing. It's about me. And as such, for men to go their own way, I support it, and I am supporting it in a bigger way as time goes on, because I recognize some fundamental things that align with myself, in the sense that men shouldn't get married. They shouldn't get roped into having these kids at an early age. They shouldn't be looking to have these kids at an early age. Also, if you look at the 60s and introduction of things like the pill in the United Kingdom, it allowed women to do, what do you call that? Promiscuous activities, where they could engage in sexual activities with men. At no point was this hindered by men. At the same time, there's this argument, why is it men are allowed to do it and women are seen as lower class or demeaning or whatever? And the answer to that is quite simply, it's stereotypical. There is nothing that says that a woman that cheats, or sorry, they're not cheating, they're very sexually active, is below a guy that's very active. And I know myself in my early years of 17 to 21, I was very active, and the women I was with were very active. But at no point did we sit there and go, well, hang on, you're a guy, this is completely okay for you, but really bad for me. It's like, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. It's a presumption that morals and guidance and everything else is still existent in an environment where that is not actually utilized in that way. The morals and guidance come in when somebody mistakenly or accidentally becomes pregnant. And then suddenly the guy has to have some responsibility, some ownership, etc., which is why I was talking about MGTOW with this woman earlier today, because I was quite simply saying, if they understand that there's high risks at stake, then it's all right to be sexually engaging, but you should actually be protecting yourself. And she was saying, yeah, but doesn't that mean that they see women as demeaning or lower this? It's like, depends how you define it. Myself, I don't see women as demean. I don't run women down or anything else. What I do is I recognize that in my teen years, you're hitting the mark wherever you can. And the women I was with were doing exactly the same, because that's thankful to the pill that was introduced in, I believe, I'm not sure the year, but with the 60s, which allowed them to not worry about pregnancy. It didn't stop STDs, but it did allow them to focus on other things. But once you get past that point, you have to recognize the risks. And this is why I was getting into the MGTOW stuff, or recognizing the fact that the higher the risks come from moving into the environment of just partying to somebody actually thinking, I want to settle down. And I like this guy. This guy is ideal for me. But this time, the guy may be a player. The guy may be a very active sports person or whatever, and not really interested in settling down. But the lock-in can occur if that woman tells the guy, yes, I am on the pill or whatever, and she's not. At that point, did she break the law? Because nobody is talking about this. Because the guy locked in for 18 years, if not marriage. At the same time, this was not what he signed up for. This was basically guys and girls having some time together, enjoying each other's company, and was not supposed to have any expectations beyond that. And this is why I'm very strong on MGTOW, in the sense, if guys are a bit more defensive on this stuff, then so be it. It allows them to protect themselves against doing these sort of mistakes, because you do not presume that the woman said, oh yeah, it's all right, I won't get pregnant. You actually turn around and say, well, I'm going to double check anyway. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen because I don't trust you. There is nothing wrong with that. That is a bit of common sense. That is a bit of sanity. And in this world we live today, one thing we're not short of is children. We're not short of adults or anything else. In fact, we're overpopulated on this planet. So when I got back to this relating to discussing these MGTOW issues with the mother, she was already going, but what? Yeah, but I don't get it, because I assume that she had actually tried to corner the guy that she had these 2 kids with, and whatever happened. Now I do stress, I assume, because why else would you be on the defensive of somebody getting pregnant without any reason? That was the big question. And then when I followed up, I says, but you look at your kids. Your kids don't want your life. They don't want to be the kids of a single mother. They're looking at their lives and recognizing that the legal system prevented them to actually really spend time with their fathers and understand their fathers. So why would they want a child to be in that same environment? It's not that they dislike their mother or hate their mother. It's about protecting themselves. It's about recognizing that there is women out there that do feel insecure or do want to have kids, even hoping that the guy will hang on and get into a relationship with them. But at the same point, a good MGTOW guy would actually protect themselves from that. And it's not a bad thing. And that's the whole point I want to stress on this, is people may actually turn around and say, well, the guy shouldn't be doing that. What about guys? What about if the guys want to impregnate the woman? MGTOW is not about that. And that's the thing. MGTOW is not about that. MGTOW is actually trying to avoid that. So if anything, it's actually beneficial. Now, some guys would actually say that some of the MGTOW actually see women as just meat or whatever else. And I'd be like, you know what? From my own point of view, I would just simply say you don't even evaluate. You know, at that age group, when you're like 18 years old, you're at a nightclub and you're looking at somebody with a short skirt and whatever's poking out of the top or whatever, your thoughts are not about, what is this woman about? It doesn't go through your head. What goes through your head is about getting them to the next base. And at the same time, the women are going through the same. The women are there for a reason. And I did come up with something today, which was, what's her name? Begins with A Pope. I can't remember her first name. But she was actually talking about the way women actually focus on these types of guys, because these types of guys are going out there to party. They flash cars and everything else because they have a good good income that is disposable, etc. And they go, I'd love to marry that guy. That's the guy. You know what? These guys ain't marriage material. The same as when I was 17 to probably about 28, I was not marriage material. I was out on the prowl. I was party time. Alcohol and women was what I was into. And most of these guys are. So going, oh, right, I'm 32. I'm looking for a guy that I used to do this and that. You know what? Those guys ain't interested. Those guys either still are partying or have moved on since then. Either way, the expectation of that being a marriage material thing is pretty much non-existent. And I know this myself because when I have high expenditure, I like to party, when I was younger. And it wasn't about, oh, you know what, I'm going to go out and find marriage material. It was going out to party. And women are exactly the same. Women are no different. So this is one of the things that did come up today relating to Pope when she was talking about this, is the fact is that a lot of women are going, I want the guy to be this, going that. You know what? That guy you met in the club wouldn't marry you because he wouldn't marry anybody. He's going there and got the cherry pickings of as many women as he likes because he's independent, he's financially wealthy, he's got abs for desire, etc., etc. But back onto the point, the kids, they were not going to be locked into this environment because they'd seen their mother. They'd seen their mother struggle. They'd seen their mother from an environment that simply was based on her being home. She didn't work. So she was relying on unemployment benefit and housing benefit and everything else. And at the same time, they seen their father was not part of that nuclear family unit and actually dismissed as such. When they did see their father, it was a case of recognizing that he was paying for this crappy life the mother was in, and they did not want to get into it. But also, although the father was not dismissive, he also had no control over the children's upbringing. Because if, for example, he wanted to see them on Sunday, their mother would actually block it, saying, we're going out Sunday, we're going to go out for the day to the park or something else on purpose. And then when they get older, they recognize my father's not interested in me. And it's not because of what happened to them today, but what happened when they were kids. And this is why the MGTOW thing was important, because these kids do not want to get into that same situation. They are smart enough to see what their mother did. They're also smart enough to see that their family being dismantled, not by their father, but by the mother who wanted certain ways to suit herself, and at the same time the father was non-responsive in the fact that legally he had no rights. Legally he had no input. Legally he couldn't do anything. The only thing he is responsible for is pumping the cash. Beyond that, he has no engagement on those kids. So if anything, the kids are more likely to have a connection with their father now because they're past the 17-year-old mark and suddenly realizing what was locked in to that father's lifestyle and wanting to bridge that gap, which is why they are MGTOW. Thanks for watching. Oh, hang on. Bill J, I want to return MGTOW, then I will not go to the films again. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was very into my conversation piece there. The thing is, Goldman's also there. Hi, man. Yeah, how you guys do it? One of the things I will say, though, in the Philippines, you've got to recognize the fact that there is none of this manipulation going on in the Philippines yet. Some people will say feminism has arrived in the Philippines, but I would actually be very dismissive of that because, quite simply, I haven't seen it. I've seen the 50-something, 56-year-old women bitter online, complaining, whining, saying that foreigners shouldn't come to the Philippines. And at the same time, I've also seen other people say, America shouldn't come to the Philippines with their aircraft carrier to deal with our disaster relief. Those things were already existing anyway. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So, Bill J, there's nothing wrong with going to the Philippines, that's for sure. One thing I can say, though, is I couldn't actually, like my son's only 6 years old, but there's no way I would get into the same scenario that many of my friends are in. I really struggle not to mention names, but it's like a friend of mine. He was living in a bedsit which is not even a bed. It's not even a bedroom. It's because you have your sink in your toilet and your kitchen all in the space of a bedroom, which is why it's a bed sitting room. He was actually funding his ex-partner's. That is busy. He was actually funding his ex-wife's lifestyle, in the sense that she was living in a 2-bedroom house. She was living the life of Riley. Yet, do you know how long they were married? No prizes for guessing. It was less than 12 months, but she fell pregnant, got a child, etc. And then even when he visited his daughter, because he paid child support as well, she was dictating that they had to go shopping on the Sunday. This is the funny thing is, I actually told him, just tell her to go to hell. And this is why it changed, because up to that point, I know he was very unhappy because he lost control of his the relationship. He loves his daughter and everything else, and this is part and parcel of being in one of these relationships. You do lose control of your children. But she used to actually get them to do the shopping on a Sunday. They used to go to a Morrison supermarket, and then they would sit in the cafeteria while the mother would shop and use it to her benefit. And I'm not going to use colorful language, but I just simply said, tell her where to go. And he said, well, what do you mean? I says, you pay child support. You pay for access to your daughter and everything else. It is not for her to go shopping and suit herself. Global Man, well, I proved child support was voluntary in 2007. Was it really voluntary, though? Or was it the fact that they give you a Chinese burn if you don't pay it? I mean, the UK is a very different system in the sense that if you don't pay it, they will take it directly out of your pay. So it's a it's a very dangerous scenario. And if this is why I say to a lot of these guys in the UK, if you're stuck in a bedsit with no options here and you're living hand to mouth, get yourself on a plane and just bugger off to the Philippines. Find yourself a way to make an income on the internet and call it a day, because you'll get a better life. You'll meet somebody of value. You'll meet somebody that actually respects you. You'll meet somebody that understands you. And that also ties in with what somebody else was saying earlier about poverty in the Philippines and why women are dating foreigners. What I found myself is a lot of women in the Philippines do not get a second shot at a husband. For example, they're a widow, and there's a lot of young widows out there. And then you've got the other side of this being that women are looking for guys that are not drunkards, womanizers, gamblers, and other things, which means that they're more accepting of foreigners that have been put on a pillar. Now, I'm not saying all foreigners are great, but the whole point is part and parcel of why a lot of these people are looking for better partners, because at the end of the day, it is not just about poverty, because a lot of it has nothing to do with poverty whatsoever. My wife, for example, was financially viable and still financially viable in the Philippines. She didn't need my support whatsoever. Global Man, I told the judge I would kill him if he jailed me. Yeah, I assume that was in Australia. Because I'm sure in the US it might be a bit more difficult. In the UK, the courts are very, very bizarre. And you may have come across Fathers for Justice and stuff. My whole concept on this is very simply just get on a plane and bugger off to the Philippines or anywhere in Asia. Because for a lot of guys, it's a bit like a lot of my friends are out of places like Aberdeen. They're oil workers. They do not need to be tied to the UK. Nigeria would give them work. Anywhere in the Middle East would give them work. The main thing is they do not need to go back to the UK, and they can go, you know what? There goes the tap of the money along with the oil. I'm off to other countries. Goodbye. And I do think that's one of the fundamental things these days, because one of the problems you get is the non-recognition of the damage that is being done by this, because as long as people are paying, nobody gives a damn. There is no recognition of what people are losing. There's no recognition of that a single guy is a human being. And it goes back to even when my father was very young, back in, that'd be about 72, 73, he was out in the Outer Hebrides relating to a radar station. The guys that were single ended up doing more shifts because the civil servants and those that were married were allowed time off compared to those that had no relationships. So they become a sacrificial pawn because it's suiting. And that's the whole system. It is sacrificial in the sense, as long as we put up with it, it will continue. Christopher De Bona, hey Matt, I finally catch a live stream. I'm in Idaho, so we're a little slow in all things. How's it going? I hope all is good. Bill J, I lived in your country from 83 to 95. Lots of fun. Yeah, you were actually there before me. I didn't arrive in the UK till 89. Actually, it was in Germany prior to that. But it's very, very peculiar the way a lot of things are being manipulated these days. I know there's been a few spats relating to, I think the name's Christmas trees. But one of the things I will say, I have fired back on every argument. Bill J, 85, not 95. 83 to 85. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the UK, probably 85, 83 to 85. Just after Hong Kong, and then after that I was in Germany. But with Christmas trees, even the arguments that's being put forward, actually I need more material, because when you actually go into it, you actually end up with more information that you can actually say, well, you know what, everything you're arguing about is actually the reverse. Because, as I said earlier, relating to a payment issue in the UK, they used a ruling from 1975 relating to the fact that women are more likely to have children, so they shouldn't have to do unsociable hours, etc. Now, for small companies, that is allowed. Large companies and government organizations, they can sue the government or large organization because family-friendly hours are legally proven on this ruling from 1975. Well, hello, that's not equality. Equality is based on the fact that everyone is equal. And this is my whole argument prior to this, which is about diversity and equality, where diversity is a complete sham. Diversity is used to justify stealing jobs from other people that are far more capable, just to allow other people that come from poorer backgrounds or whatever to take a job that wasn't theirs. In this case, relating to this 1975 law, they have used and abused it to force people to actually give them more money for hours and contracts they don't do. For example, that maybe they want to go part-time, maybe they want flexible hours, maybe they only want to work daytime hours, but they're not always available. I mean, for example, if you have a small police station and there's only daytime hours for one woman, and there's two women wanting the daytime hours, how do you justify those 80 hours a week for the daytime only? I'll leave that question out there, because the answer to that is on a postcard, because one of them will sue. And that is part and parcel of where I'm very supporting of MGTOW, because I'm sick and tired of the garbage that I know the US is suffering with this, but I speak from a UK point of view. that is constantly pushed that we're downtrodden, we're this, we're that, from the feminist point of view. The Me Too stuff, I do not understand at all. Now, I'm not being funny. If there was an issue relating to men or women in the whole industry relating to, oh, the abused by their boss, you know what? It's not men or women. It's either. It's anything. It's the bloody pet pigeon. It doesn't really matter. But the whole, we're feminists, we only support women, and that's what irritates me. In the same way, I was listening to the lead singer of Churches, which is the band out of Glasgow, and she was saying, well, some people describe me as a feminist this or whatever. And I'm like, I just describe you as an idiot. That's it. I just describe you as a brat child that has an issue with things that you need to have an issue with because your life's just crap, and your life really isn't that crap, but you need to create something to feel important. Because there's far worse going on, but also the argument wasn't even defined on a particular case, which is one of my main issues. I mean, I'm not being funny. If you are talking about people being pro-Palestinian, for example, and then you go, okay, why are you pro-Palestinian? Well, I spent 2 months there and I did that. They have a viewpoint. They have experience in that. But a lot of the feminists don't have any of this information. It's just that they want to argue with somebody. And that's when I go, well, it's because of this. That's like, but that's not even true. That's not even fact. That is something you've just made up. Or as I brought up with Christmas tree, a lot of the time it is making a victim out of an environment where there is no victim. Like, for example, separation. In many cases, people simply drift apart. They grow apart over time. They have different choices, different religions, different relationships, work changes, or whatever. There is no victim. All you have is people drifting apart. But I've never seen feminists just going, you know what, the relationship failed, and that's it. It's like, there's a victim here. There's a victim. All the time, there is no victim. But anyway, I just thought I wanted to bring this one up. It was a bit of a short one relating to talking to somebody today, and I was saying to her kids should be MGTOW just from their own defense point of view, because if they screw it up now, it will affect them for the next 20 years. Where if they simply go out there on a defensive, they ain't going to make stupid mistakes. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching.